Well, yesterday we brought a report of some young men who were gruesomely killed, murdered in Nacho Bamenda. This has raised divergent reactions. Inhabitants of Bamenda have rubbished the selective reactions and condemned the Colonial Republic to Cameroon Minister of Defense. This is after the press release of the Colonial Minister of Defense promising help to the perpetrators of the Nacho massacre. People are asking, why is it that the release is ignored, and who are the five young men that were killed and who killed them? Is it that the La Republic of Cameroon military has a monopoly to kill? This is a question from bike riders, motorists, and commuters. When La Republic of Cameroon military kills, there is total silence, but the same silence is not observed by La Republic of Cameroon when they are not the perpetrators. Why is that so? Well, this is where we'll begin on tonight's Undaunted. How are you doing, Sir?
Very well, Onyi. Some pundits in Bamenda have reacted to the press release of the Colonial La Republic Minister of Defense. They call on the minister to first of all punish the La Republic forces who murdered five at Awing Quarter. La Republic du Cameroon Minister of Defense, Mindef, has announced that measures have been taken to apprehend perpetrators of the massacre that took place on Sunday, July 16, 2023, in Nacho, located in the heart of Bamenda Midland Zone. The information is contained in a release signed on Monday, July 17, 2023, by the colonial head of communications of the ministry.
Well, according to Aton Funk, a group of a dozen men deceptively dressed in military gear, similar to those of La Republic of Cameroon Army, stormed Natru Junction, where they began shooting indiscriminately. The report of this terrorist attack reveals that 10 people were murdered and two others seriously injured. The statement stated, they went on to add that operations are ongoing to apprehend the perpetrators. Among those killed was a couple who wedded 2 months ago in the said town.
Now, the outing of the La Republic's Ministry of Defense on the Nacho massacre has added fuel to injury. In the press release signed by Mindef, the killings of five youths in a wing quarter not far from where the Nacho massacre took place were ignored, whereas the killing of the five youths took place less than 48 hours before the Nacho massacre. Some Bamenda residents have condemned selective reactions and condemnations. Um, Julius, a resident of Bamenda, says this is totally unacceptable. When it is them, they hide. When it is Amba, they mount rooftops and make the loudest noise. Their selective condemnation is only prolonging the crisis, he said.
Well, a commercial biker who lost two friends in the Awing Quarter killing said the La Republic of Cameroon's government's attitude of hiding crimes committed by La Republic of Cameroon soldiers gives the impression that they have the monopoly to kill. He says that his only regret is that innocent people continue to die while the colonial authorities continue to feed fat from the crisis. Well, while the press release says efforts to arrest the perpetrators of the Nacho massacre are on the way, the talk around the town of Bamenda is that those who killed the five youths at Awin Quarter should not be spared.
And on to our next report. The late hours of Sunday, July 16, 2023, at Nacho Junction in Bamenda were bloody. Undaunted reported the massacre that saw about 10 dead. The Archbishop of Bamenda visited the crime scene and prayed for the repose of the departed from the shooting. Curiously, the Archbishop never visited the compound where La Republic terrorist forces assassinated four young boys. Popular talks around hold that the Archbishop never visited the compound because the killing was perpetrated by the occupational La Republic forces. This is a true observation, for the Archbishop Andrew Nkir has been aiding and abetting the ongoing genocide in Ambazonia by literally taking sides with the La Republic's government. Why is it that he has not been able to preach truth to the colonial La Republic government?
Well, the Archbishop of the Bamenda, Andrew Nkir, has visited Natri Junction, where at least 10 civilians were killed on the 16th of July 2023. He also prayed for the peaceful repose of the departed souls. Candles were also lit at the scene in honor of the victims, but his visit was not void of controversy. The Archbishop surprisingly avoided the compound where five youths were killed less than 48 hours before the massacre in Nacho. It is not clear why Bishop Nkir and his team didn't visit this said compound.
Now, people here say perhaps it was because it has been established that our Republic government forces carried out the killing in a wing quarter on Saturday morning, which was a day before the Nacho massacre. It should be noted that armed men dressed in military fatigue stormed Nacho and killed a couple and nine others. The indiscriminate shootings also left four persons injured, while no group has officially claimed responsibility for the deadly attack. Moving on, is the Colonial La Republic military responsible for the killing of the Bamenda 10? Here are some pointers to discrepancies arising from these killings. First pointer, no Colonial La Republic military presence at the scene of the shooting more than 24 hours after and counting. Normally, if the acts are perpetrated by gunmen outside their state security, we would see deployments, probably heavy ones, of the state security at the scene. Here, besides keeping the place secured, they may also carry out wanton and indiscriminate arrests, called in the enemy language kali kali.
Well, two, no immediate visit of top administrative officials of the area. Well, we could only see a Catholic bishop. That is strange, isn't it? Meanwhile, in their belated communique signed by the Colonial Republic of Cameroon military spokesman Atonfang Cyril said he lied that the Colonial Republic of Cameroon administrative officials went to the scene and opened investigation. Atonfang's communique from Colonial Republic of Cameroon states the Defense Communication Department admits the men were in military attire but attributes the military wears to Ambazonian restoration fighters. Well, this is unusual throughout this war that the ARFs could put such a disguise mechanism, except it's a new strategy. What about the pickup they used? Could it not be easily located? Allow Republic to Cameroon tactics to give valiant ARFs a bad name, like just like giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it.
The fourth pointer here is the killing of 10 persons came less than 30 hours after similar killings around the same vicinity, yet no immediate Colonial La Republic security response from either the military or their CPDM administration. Fifth pointer, as for the fund's reaction to the incident, a lot is now clear that nothing good can come from any CPDM militants. The Code Fund had taken to the line of the oppressor La Republique, and instead of pointing his accusations at the right directions, he pointed to the oppressed, calling on the oppressed to drop their weapons and walk into the self-imprisonment centers, DDR, and inviting his CPDM peers for a peace march, which would certainly be a boomerang in Bamenda local government area on Thursday. About a month ago, mayhem was carried on Babanki by La Republic military, and no voice of condemnation was raised. It is strange for traditional or royal rulers to march on the streets against something they already know the cause and even the solution.
Well, if they were still with integrity and had not long severe ties with their subjects, for choosing to wine and dine with the enemy, they could simply gather under incident sport and pour libations. The result would be very effective even within hours. ABC Amber TV is not a devil's advocate, but just objectively looking at the actions of main actors after incidents like this particular one. Unfortunately, like some said, people already have their sides, the sides they have chosen, and would do all to defend them.
The weekend draft that brought in a colossal sum of 21.165 US dollars, rekindles hope of resilience and resistance not only for Bui, the land of no return, but for the entire Amazonia that will be hot again more than ever before for the enemy La Republic forces to begin this year of acceleration. Prior to this important exercise, the Amazonian National TV, ABC Amba TV, ran programs tailored to present Mighty Bui in all facets, setting the momentum and focusing the minds of every bona fide Amazonia on this lone subject matter for the weekend.
Well, then came the host, Sheyimbo, the Fire Boy County Coordinator, in a hair-raising welcome speech inviting all and sundry to rise up and support Boye, the land of no return. He underscored that no country ever became independent without fighting, so, in self-defense, through drafting, Amazonians must fight to free itself from France and La Republic to Cameroon. Sheyimbo made it abundantly clear that we will not transfer this fight to the next generation. He says that we must fight till we reach Boya. He says we must fight and take our land by force. We will not fail Mola EML Endeli, JN Fonchang Gumjoa Folon Mukong Molan Joa Lutembe. Now today's the expectant Major General Chokandu, the valiant, resilient, steadfast, and the no-nonsense commander of the indomitable and the mighty Bui warriors, responsible for making Bui unbearable for the enemy. La Republic Cameroon forces added his voice calling all the Amazonian financial warriors to draft so that they can accelerate the journey to Buea.
Well, Bui, the bastion of the Amazonian struggle, in his keynote address at this important exercise, the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, describes Bui as the bastion, the hottest county in the Amazonian quest for freedom. He doffed his hat to the Amazonian Restoration Forces, Bui Mighty Warriors, for their tenacity, steadfastness, and coordinated actions in destabilizing La Republic's colonial forces day in, day out, as the body bag of the fallen occupier forces are being repatriated from homeland. He says the God-fearing Amazonian president pays tributes to all the fallen heroes and heroines of the Amazonian struggle, singling out the very dreaded General Chacha, General Isubu, and all descendants of the Uso warriors, and requested for a minute's silence in their honor.
Well, the Somalia example, 2023 being a year of acceleration, the president reiterated the need for strategic planning that began with the federal draft to enable the ARFs fight more than ever, stressing that if the UN or any other country refuses to recognize Ambazonia, Ambazonia would force itself into history like Somalia and restoration before recognition. What about the DDR for fools and cowards? Well, the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome, described the colonial La Republic of Cameroon first self-imprisonment centers. Well, he said the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration (DDR) as good only for fools and cowards, cautioning all ARFs never to be forced to enter there and advise them to table any grievances through their local government areas and counties for the interim government to look for suitable solutions. If by any reason you can't continue, he says, report through your command chain. Don't go to the enemy and know that you have been chosen by destiny to liberate your people.
Now, La Republic should keep Furundi and build a monument for him. The president, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, described the late Furundi as a disaster to the people who hijacked the party he formed to fight the Southern Cameroons cause and derail the front in favor of the oppressor. La Republic and as if adding salt into an injury, he said Furundi condemned the never again generation who are fighting the fight he abandoned, calling the fighters terrorists. President Sako said if Furundi had done his work, the current war might have been avoided, and advised the La Republic should keep his corpse and build a monument for him since Amazonia has rejected it. Dr. Sako, without mincing words, called for total boycott of his funeral and lockdown.
Well, at the end of the day, the Amazonian financial warriors came out with a colossal sum of over $21 dollars without counting pledges. This rekindles hope of resilience and resistance as other countries queue up. Well, in appreciation, the Bui coordinator, Comrade Shea Yimbu, has an appreciation note for everyone.
Fellow Amazonians, this is the voice of Shea Yimbu, Bowie County Chairman. May peace be with you wherever you are in the world. I am knocking at your doors today to, on behalf of Bowie County, thank you exceptionally well for the wonderful support that you gave Bowie County during this year's draft last Saturday, July 15th, 2023. You did it again. You did great. You did great and great, Ambazonia. Thank you so very much. Our hearts go out for you. Ambazonia, you will remain great. We are a nation and we've come to stay. This support will go a long way to help our priests to deliver their sermons without any problem. It will help our wounded and our displaced. You have once again shown that we are one in purpose and that we shall fall and rise together. One for all for one. Let me take this time to specially thank the resource mobilization and the great leadership of SOS Nijo, Shea Nijo, and his wonderful team, especially those who were with him last Saturday, in the presence of our own Ma Sarah, our own Ma Bree Tebo, and the rest of the resource mobilization team that worked tirelessly in the backgrounds before even the event. I thank you. I doff my hat to you. I want to thank immensely from the bottom of my heart the ABC team and its entire leadership. I want to thank especially Director Paddy for your selflessness and for your dedication and determination to make sure that Ambazonia has a voice out there, that Ambazonia speaks to the world and Ambazonia tells Ambazonia's story. Thank you so very much for making it possible for Ambazonians to sit together and carry on this activity in the face of the world, and that it has stuck in history. Thank you so very much, Director Paddy. Thank you, ABC. Your cafe day up. Thank you. I also want to very especially thank our VP Eric Ate, the unseen hand in the success story of Boy County. Mr. VP Eric Ate has worked tirelessly to see that Boy County survives. Mr. VP, our hearts are up for you. Thank you very much. We can never thank you enough. May I acknowledge at this point the great leadership of the President of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, whose guided and calculative decision making is a win-win for Amazonia. The President has stood tall and stood behind Boy County, making sure that Boy County has the support where necessary. Thank you, Mr. President. To the Bowie County Executive, my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you, my people. You are the best. You are the best. I couldn't ask for any better to work with. Thank you so very much for your dedicated work, for your tirelessness, for your dedication, for your focus, for your going to the goal all the time. You are well measured in all decisions. You roll together like a bunch that cannot be torn apart. Thank you so very much. I pray that God will continue to guard and protect you so that we roll together and we push this ball on this match until we arrive, Boya. Thank you so very much. Ambazonia, you did it for Bowie County once more. You rock. Bowie County will, as usual, not disappoint you. Please do not relent your efforts for continuous support for Bowie County so that we can kick and thrash this enemy out of our land once and for all. We can do it, and we couldn't do it without you, Amazonia. We are one in purpose, one in the cause, one in the fight, and we will roll together, and together we shall realize our goal. We will stand in Boya and make that noise together. Thank you so very much, Ambazonia. Long live Ambazonia. Short live the struggle. We are winning. We have won. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome back. Well, this is to all esteemed county chairs and officials. Well, I am very sure that you enjoyed the video, the editorial Undaunted Newsroom put together for Bowie County. Well, in this regard, we are pleading with all county and local government area leaderships, the departments of education and strategic collaboration to work with us so that we can put together something extremely reasonable as what we did for Buyi that would contain a brief historical timeline, cultural and touristic literature for all respective counties ahead of their draft days. Remember, this is our unique opportunity for almost 60 years of bondage to tell our own stories by ourselves. Now, thank you for your collaboration. This is signed by ABC Amber TV Management. Now, coming up next is the Ngokentuja County World Draft. It's coming up on Saturday, the 22nd of July 2023. So it simply means that the coordinators of county draft and everyone who is involved in planning the draft for county for Ngokentuja should try as much as possible to send in their own literature so that we can document it in professional ways. This will help to teach the little ones about the history that they can't find anywhere else. We look forward to getting all of the literatures from Ngokentuja towards Saturday. Coming up next is African Report.
The European Union and Tunisia signed a strategic partnership in Tunis on Sunday, focusing on the fight against illegal immigration, but also designed to support the North African country in the face of serious economic difficulties. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, welcomed the agreement, which will enable Tunisia to invest in shared prosperity, citing five pillars, including the all important question of migration. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte accompanied the European leader after the trial's first visit a month ago, during which they proposed this partnership.
Well, the Memorandum of Understanding marks another important step towards tackling the migration crisis in an integrated way. Well, this was said by delighted Mrs. Meloni, who has arrived Tunisian President Kais Saied to attend a summit on migration in Rome next Sunday. Among other things, they agreed to extend the Erasmus exchange program to Tunisia and to provide 65 million euros in aid for 80 schools. Well, according to Ms. Meloni, the partnership between Tunisia and the European Union can be seen as a model for the establishment of new relations with North Africa.
Now, as for immigration, Mr. Rutte felt that the agreement would enable better control of irregular immigration. President Said addressed this issue to his counterparts, calling for a collective agreement on inhumane immigration and forced displacement operations by criminal networks. Tunisians have given these immigrants everything they could be offered with unlimited generosity, pleaded Mr. Said, strongly criticized for the way in which hundreds of migrants were arrested in Tunisia, then deported, according to NGOs, to inhospitable areas on the borders with Algeria and Libya.
Well, testimonies given to AFPs by telephone and video sent to NGOs in Tunisia showed women and children abandoned in the middle of the desert without water, food, or shelter. Libyan border guards told AFP on Sunday that they had rescued at least 70 migrants wandering in unbearable temperatures and without any help in a border area between the two countries.
Well, an increasingly open xenophobic discourse has spread in Tunisia since Mr. Said, who took over full power in July 2021, denounced illegal immigration in February, referring to hordes of sub-Saharan migrants who he claimed had come to change the demographic composition of the country. In concrete terms, the agreement between Brussels and Tunis provides for 105 million euros in aid to combat illegal immigration.
Well, the EU has also promised direct budgetary aid of 150 million euros in 2023 at a time when Tunisia is strangled by a debt representing 80% of its GDP. Well, it was running out of cash, causing regular shortages of basic necessities purchased directly by the state. Well, on the foreign scene, President Zelensky on Monday in Kiev said his country will find alternative routes to reach Africa and Asia in a bid to keep food prices down and prevent starvation in destination countries of export following Russia's current offensive move. President Zelensky said this at the office of the President of Ukraine while welcoming half a dozen international media executives currently on the fact-finding mission sponsored by the Public Interest Journalism Lab based in Kyiv, led by the famous Ukrainian journalist Natalie Gunemek. The Grain from Ukraine program is a UN and Turkish brokered arrangement that lets Ukraine export grain to African and Asian markets through the Black Sea port of Odessa in southeast Ukraine.
Now, this is not the first time it has done this, Mr. Zelensky told, remarking that Russia is constantly provoking to disrupt this agreement. Therefore, he believes that the decision to sign a document on the creation of a grain corridor with Turkey and the United Nations rather than with the Russian Federation was a very prudent policy. He believes that an agreement personally with President Erdogan of Turkey and personally with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He told them that Ukraine is ready to work in the triangle, but it will be impossible to work with Russia. The grain program helps prevent several millions of people around the world, about 62 million in Africa, from suffering from food insecurity, and has former vice president of the World Bank and Nigeria's former minister of education, Obiageli Ezekwesili, and two other African leaders as its ambassadors.
Well, since the Ukraine-Russia war of 2022, Russia has blocked the major Black Sea shipping routes through which Ukrainian exports reach the world markets. Last year in November, however, the United Nations and Turkey helped secure a corridor through which Ukraine can still fulfill its food export obligations to the world market once Russia certifies through its inspection that vessels bearing the grains are free of arms. The Russian inspection program has always been a butt of criticism for what Ukrainians describe as willful delays designed to ensure that Russia continues to monopolize the global grain markets. Russia and Ukraine contribute a third of the world's trade in wheat, barley, sunflower, and corn, strategic grains that put food on the table of most of the world's poor, particularly in Asia and Africa. Now, since its launch, and with a pledge of more than $200 million, no fewer than 30 donor countries have signed up to support the initiative, amongst who are Turkey, Qatar, Japan, Norway, Korea, Canada, and the USA. A visibly bitter Mr. Zelensky said Russia's decision was predictable, being simply a format of jumping on the grain and agricultural market in order to block Ukraine and be the only major exporter in the region. It is absolutely clear that in order to solve their political issues, to put pressure and to make money for their companies, to put pressure on African countries, Asian countries, and European countries as well. All right, now let's join Gab Ellison in the sports studio.
Latest world sports. Football. Ryan Giggs. Ex-Man United star cleared over former girlfriend charges. The former Manchester United footballer and ex-Wales manager Ryan Giggs has been cleared of allegations he assaulted his ex-girlfriend and her sister. It comes after charges were withdrawn by the Crown Prosecution Services (CPS) at a hearing at Manchester Crown Court. Mr. Giggs, 48, has always denied assault and controlling or coercive behavior towards Kate Graville, 38, and assaulting her sister Emma. Judge Hilary Manley directed that he was not guilty on all three counts. The retrial had been due to start at Manchester Crown Court on 31st July. Jurors failed to reach verdicts following more than 20 hours of deliberations after his 4-week trial in August last year. Mr. Giggs was not in court on Tuesday as the judge had agreed he did not need to attend. Prosecutor Peter Wright Casey told Manchester Crown Court that the CPS were not now proceeding with the case. He said Kate Graville had indicated an unwillingness to give evidence in a retrial, as given evidence in the first one had taken its toll on her and her sister. Mr. Wright said, "This is not a decision taken lightly. In this case, Ms. Graville and her sister Emma gave evidence over a number of days in a case when there was considerably media and public interest, and it is that particularly that's taking its toll on them, in particular, Kate Graville." Mr. Wright said there had been protracted efforts to find out why she was unwilling to cooperate with a second trial, but prosecuting lawyers did not think it appropriate to issue a witness summons to compel her to give evidence for a second time. He said there was no realistic prospect of conviction on count one of coercive and controlling behavior, and it was no longer in the public interest to proceed to prosecute on the other charges of assault on Ms. Graville and her sister. He added, "That being the case, we formally offered no evidence on counts 1, 2, and 3. Olympics. Commonwealth Games. 2026 event in doubt after Victoria cancels. The 2026 Commonwealth Games are in doubt after the Australian state of Victoria cancelled its plan to host due to budget blowouts. The Commonwealth Games Federation, CGF, struggled to find a host before Victoria volunteered in April 2022, but the Premier said the projected cost had now tripled and become well and truly too much for the state to bear. CGF called the decision hugely disappointing and said it is committed to finding a solution. The Commonwealth Games are a multi-sport tournament that take place every 4 years. They have only ever been cancelled during World War II. To be eligible to participate in the Games, competitors must be from one of the Commonwealth's 56 members. Most of the countries in the Commonwealth were once part of the British Empire. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews on Tuesday said Victoria had been happy to help out when approached to host last year, but not at any price. Organizers had originally estimated the event, hosted across cities including Geelong, Bendigo, and Ballarat, would cost 2.6 billion Australian dollars, 1.4 billion pounds, 1.8 billion American dollars, and the state government had billed it as a boost for the regions. But now the 12-day tournament was expected to cost more than 6 billion Australian dollars, Mr. Andrews said, adding that the figure was more than twice the estimated economic benefit it will bring to Victoria. "I've made a lot of difficult calls, a lot of very difficult decisions in this job. This is not one of them," he told the press conference. "That is all cost and no benefit. The government will still complete the stadium upgrades it had promised ahead of the Games, while using the money it is now saving on housing and tourism initiatives." Mr. Andrews said the government had considered every option, including moving the Games to Melbourne, before informing CGF of their decision. "Amicable and productive meetings had occurred in London overnight," he added. But in a statement on Tuesday, the governing body said they were blindsided by the decision. "We are disappointed that we were only given 8 hours notice and that no consideration was given to discussing the situation to jointly find solutions," it said in a statement. CGF said the estimate of 6 billion Australian dollars is double the figure they were advised of at a board meeting last month, and that the increase in costs were due to the unique regional delivery model that Victoria chose for the Games. The government had made decisions to include more sports and changed plans for venues, often against the advice of the CGF and its Australian arm, all of which added considerable expense, it said. Victorian opposition leader John Pesutto said the decision is a massive humiliation for the state and hugely damaging for its reputation as a global events leader. The chief executive of Commonwealth Games Australia agreed, saying the cited cost blowout was a gross exaggeration and that it would try to find another Australian host for the 2026 Games. Australia has held the Commonwealth Games 5 times, including on the Gold Coast in 2018 and in the Victorian capital of Melbourne in 2006, but all of the country's states on Tuesday ruled out picking up the event. New Zealand authorities also say they will not take on the Games. Organizers have had great difficulty finding viable tournament hosts in recent years. The South African city of Durban was originally set to stage the 2022 Games, but were stripped of hosting rights in 2017 after running into money troubles and missing key deadlines. Birmingham agreed to host 9 months later. CGF had originally hoped to name a host for the 2026 games in 2019, but several hopeful bidders withdrew from the process due to cost concerns, leaving it unable to lock in Victoria as the hosts until 2022. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
All right, now, without sports reports, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight.
All right, but before we go, let's take a look at our major stories.
On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Bamenda denizens blast La Republic's selective condemnation, and also the Archbishop Andrew Nkir visits natural murder scene, praise for departed soul. We also revisited draft and the wonderful draft of hope we had last weekend.
All right, on the African scene, we told you that the EU signed strategic deal on economy, migration. Russia and Ukraine war, Zelensky dismisses Russia's grain blockage to Africa, vows to open new export routes. Well, in sports, we told you that Ryan Giggs, ex-Man United star, cleared over former girlfriend's charges. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news Untold Stories. On behalf of Star Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
Leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you. So basically, what was